Chapter 13. Never apologize, never explain. Neef's rules for changelings. The Green Lady thought I should leave right away. The curator thought I should wait until I had gone to the New York Public Library and reviewed all available literature on mermaids and dragons in the history of Broadway. Since it was my quest, I thought they should let me decide. But when I said so, they just stared at me and went back to arguing. At last, the Pooka said, begging your pardon, geniuses both, for speaking up when maybe I'm not needed. But in the old country, a quest always begins at daybreak. Does it? Asked the curator. Fascinating. The Green Lady scowled. This is the new country, buddy, in case you hadn't noticed. In the absence of the other rule, the Pooka said firmly, a quest starts at daybreak. It's traditional. The lady glared at him. How would you like me to make you exile permanent, trickster? Come to think of it, it might be permanent anyway, if your mortal hero doesn't come back. For a minute, I really thought I might explode. My face was icy, my ears buzzed, and the little black sparkles danced before my eyes like gnats. The quest off, I said, my voice shaky with fury. No mirror, no ticket, no dragon scales. I won't go unless you let Pooka go home, even if I get eaten. As soon as it was out of my mouth, I regretted it, but the Green Lady shrugged. Deal. You die, the Pooka comes home. She gave me a remarkably friendly smile. I gotta hand it to you, kid. You're one tough cookie, and loyal. Good luck. And that was it. The Green Lady left. The curator and the guards went back to work, and a few docents and curious tourists who'd gathered to watch the show drifted off again. I retreated in the inmost chamber of the tomb of Purnerd, which is just another quietest place in the museum, and slumped down against the wall. After a while, Bastet came in and butted my hip, and her hard little head. That's enough of that, she said. I wiped my eyes and stroked her cool, smooth back. I'm fine. Bastet shook off my hand and started to clean her paws. Your copy, she said between licks, is fine too. She's in the Temple of Dender, counting the bricks. Changeling. I'd forgotten all about her. I put my forehead back on my knees. At least she'd be okay. Nobody was going to bother her in the museum, and if she was one of those folk who count things, she'd have plenty to keep her busy while I was gone. Maybe looking after her would keep the Pooka out of mischief. Don't even think of leaving her here, said Bastet, looking up from her bath. You promised to take care of her. She's your responsibility. You don't argue with a goddess. I found Changely sitting cross-legged under the temple gate with her face to the wall. She was muttering to herself. Hi, Changeling. No answer, unless 2051, 2052, 2053 is an answer. I'm going on a quest, Changeling. You want to come with? 2055, 2055, 54, and 55, and 56, she said. This is not just a bad dream, is it? It took me a moment to figure out what she was talking about. No, Changeling, it's not a dream. I have been reviewing the data in the past 2 days. I have been frightened and hurt and hungry. I have fallen from the great height, and the fall did not wake me. Sherlock Holmes says that when you eliminated the impossible. Whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. In the dream, I always wake up when I fall from the great height. Argo, this is not a dream. Sherlock Holmes knows what he's talking about. If I am not dreaming, where am I? I told her a little about New York between, stressing for importance of following the rules. I had to talk to her back because she wouldn't turn around, and I wasn't totally sure she was even listening to me. After a while, I kind of trailed off and we sat in silence until she said, I want to go home. I want to go home too, I said. That's what this quest is all about. Long pause then. If I go on this quest with you, then can I go home? I started to tell her that it beat me, but I didn't. That I suspected would lead to a freak out companion who would even harder to deal with than she was already. On the other hand, if I told Changling that this quest was her ticket home, I'd be lying. On the other hand, what choice did I have? And there was always the chance that I might find a way to get back to her outside after all. Let's put it this way, I said. If you come with me, your chances of going home are a lot better than if you don't. Very well, then, Changling said. I will come with you. Perhaps I may be some use. I doubted that, but I thanked her anyway. Then I went to Sherigdo's bedroom, where I picked up Satchel, told the armory exactly what I thought of them, and went back to the temple. We had some bread and cheese, and the changeling fell asleep. Amazingly, so did I. Right there on the sandstone floor of the Temple of Dender. The next thing I knew, the puka was shaking me, and Bastet was mowing in Changeling's ear. I grabbed Satchel, made sure Changeling was on her feet, and stumbled into the hall. It was full of dachshunds who hurried us along, taking turns pelting me with advice I was too sleepy to take in. When we got to the between-way station, they wished Changelings and me good luck and left us alone in corridors on the platform. With the curator on the platform, the curator cleared his throat. Your first task, Neef, is to acquire the magical, magnificent mirror of the Mermaid Queen. The closet between stop to the New York harbor is Fury. Can you remember that? Furry. Perhaps I should write it down for you. To be surprised, Changeling piped up. I will remember, she said. I have an unusual good memory. Good luck, the curator said, and disappeared. No pat on the head? No special gift to help me on my way? Not that I really expected anything, but a magic sword or even enchanted pencil would have made me feel a lot better. I took a deep breath and turned to Changeling, who was doing her turtle impersonation again. Okay, I said. The rule for the between is that we have to stay connected. Is it okay with you if I hold your skirt? Is it okay with you if I hold onto your skirt? Her chin dipped deeper into the flowery collar, taking that as a yes. I grabbed a fold of her long blue skirt and we stepped onto the between together. The between ways were easier this time. They still weren't my idea of fun, and noise was terrible, but at least I knew what I expect. Changeling turned mushroom color, scratched her eyes out, and folded herself deeper into her jacket. I saw her mouth shaping the word furry over and over again. I did too. Furry, 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 furry. Until it stopped being a word and turned into scurrying noise in my head. After that seemed like a very long time, I saw a black sign squiggly blue lines under it. Furry, it said. I pulled Changeling through the crowd of something leathery. Dingian giant bats? And then we were standing on the platform of the between-way screeching behind us, facing a gate that opened to admit that the Kappa in white karate suits. I bowed to them, which is the right thing to do when you meet a Kappa, and towed Changeling out of the station. I know it sounds strange, but until I actually saw Battery Park, I hadn't really understood that going on a quest meant going out into the city. Maybe it was the name. Battery Park was a park, right? Trees, rocks, grass, squirrels, nature spirits, buildings in the distance, far enough away to be mysterious. Wrong. The buildings were right beside the station and jagged wall of many window towers and blocked out the sun. The park was flat open space dotted with a few pitiful trees and a low stone fortress, and lay beside the harbor like a gray stone donut. Gulls screamed and chuckled overhead, riding a wind that smelled like salt and seaweed. Suddenly I felt like running. "Hey, Changeling," I shouted. "I'll race you to the water. Ready? Go." Running felt wonderful. If I'd had to breathe, I would have shouted out loud. I spread my arms like a seagull wings and tried to run faster. Finally, I got stitched in my side and had to stop and wrap my arms around my belly. Just like Changeling, I thought, and hastily unwrapped myself. I'm not at all like Changeling, I told myself. I don't have fairy fits. I'm not afraid of new things. I know more folklore than most real folk do. I'm a hero and a champion, and I'm the quest for the genius of Central Park. Changeling stumbled up behind me, her face stony. You took me by surprise," she said. "I do not like surprises." I was in no mood to deal with fairy nerves. "Well, you're going to have to get used to them." "Why?" "We're on a quest, that's why. There's going to be surprises and things jumping out of bushes and all kinds of things you don't like. If you melt down every time that happens, we're dead. And I mean that literally." Her mouth set to a grim line. "I am afraid. I want to go home." "Me too. Remember what I told you back at the museum? We have to finish the quest first." Changeling hummed. I tapped my foot. "Very well," she said at last. "I will do my best to expect the unexpected, and I will try not to have a meltdown. Is it fair to warn you that I am not always in control of them?" She sounded like a puka promising to try to behave that my irritation vanished. "And I'll do my best to explain things when I can." I tried to recall when Astris had taught me about New York geography. "For instance, that water over there in New York Harbor," I said. "The round building is Castle Clinton, and that," pointing to a huge green lady standing on the island a little way out, has to be the Statue of Liberty." "I know what the Statue of Liberty is," Changeling said scornfully. "What shall we do next?" "I'll tell you just as soon as I figure it out." We walked down to the Piper. The harbor was dark and oily looking, not at all like the sparkling water in the park. It bustled with boats from the rowboats and skin canyon, can, canoes, canoes, sorry, my bad, I'm dumb, canoes to tall, gracefully white sailed ships and heavy fighters. Yeah. The Statue of Liberty greeted them all in the voice that carried over like water, like a bell. I sat down with my feet dangling above the water. The Mermaid Queen probably kept her mirror with her all the time, right? So the first thing I had to do was find the Mermaid Queen, who lived in the harbor underwater, where I couldn't breathe. So really, the first thing I had to do was find some serious magical help. A magic fish seemed like a good bet if I could catch one without a hook or a net. I asked Satchel for some bread, which I tore to pieces and threw into water. While I waited for some useful to rise to my bait, I thought about mermaids. Astrus had taught me the basics, of course. Half woman, half fish, control New York harbor, collect stuff out of sunken ships, have power over the waves. But all I knew at their habits was a story a Nixie had told me once about a mermaid who pulled a sailor into depths of the sea so she can make a table out of his bones and goblet out of his skull. Mermaids, I muttered. I need to know more about mermaids. Changeling was sitting beside me, looking at the horizon. Mermaid means maiden of the sea, she said. Mermaids have long hair and fish tails instead of legs. They like music. Ignorant people confuse them with sirens. Sirens are water sprites who sing so beautifully that sailors used to jump out of their ships to get closer to them and drown. She frowned. I do not think sirens have fish tails, but I am not sure. I gaped at her. You know about mermaids? I am far expert on the subject. I saw a movie once called The Little Mermaid. I found it quite silly, but it made me curious about mermaids, so I looked them up online. They, there is a surprising number of sites. I saw many pictures that depict mermaids combing their hair while sitting on a rock and looking in mirrors. Often they were wearing pearl necklaces. I should have been used to being lectured by folk. But when lecture comes from a fairy changeling who knows nothing about the rules and looks just like me, well, it was hard to take. That's real useful, I sneered. If I happen to be if I happen to have a pearl necklace in my pocket. Changeling didn't seem to notice the sneer. Data is always useful, she said. That was somehow just too much. Well, here's some data for you, I said. I know the folk and you don't. The Mermaid Queen is genius of the New York harbor. Well, here's some data for you, I said. I know the folk and you don't. The Mermaid Queen is the genius of New York harbor. From where I'm sitting, that looks like a big job. Just a guess. But I really, really doubt that she sits around a lot singing to herself, combing her hair. Changeling twirled into her jacket again and began her three-note hum. Part of me was sorry I'd upset her. Part of me was ready to scream. Before I settled on which part to go with, somebody pushed us both into the New York harbor. I kicked back to the surface, sputtering and spitting New York harbor water. It tasted different from the water in the Central Park Lake, oily and salty and nasty. Beside me, Changeling with pair of splashing hands and fast sinking head. Back on the shore, a tanuki rolled on the pavement like a furry barrel, holding its sides and hooting with laughter. Tricksters. You gotta hate 'em. I managed to get a grip of Changeling and haul her up so her face was out of the water. She started churning her arms like an egg beater, and we both went under. The whole world was white foam and stinging water up my nose. I held my breath as long as I could, but finally had to breathe or burst. I gasped, expecting a lungful of choking water. To my astonishment, I got air instead. It stank of stale magic, but I could breathe. As my eyes cleared, I saw Changeling thrashing around an arm's length away. Her mouth was square with panic, her eyes were slits, and her hands surrounded by a large silvery bubble. Between us floated a large harbor seal, so big that he had to be a Selkie. Shit. He had big dark eyes with eyelashes about a foot long and a sleek round head and shoulders like a troll. There was a badge on a cord around his neck. It read, Harbor Police. The police Selkie saw me looking at him. Your friend seems upset, he said. Yeah, well, she doesn't like when people sneaking up on her. Neither do I. Well, I don't like strange landfolk splashing around the harbor. A crump of water-soaked bread drifted down past his nose. And you've been littering. That's a serious offense, you know. It's just bread, I said. Biodegradable and complete edible. I was trying to attract a magic fish, but you're even better. Can you direct me to the court of Mermaid Queen? I remembered my manners. Please? You want to see the Mermaid Queen, the Selkie laughed. You have to be out of your mind. The Mermaid Queen eats landfolk for breakfast, raw. It would be far kinder if you drowned. It would be far kinder to drown you, unless you can give me a good reason not to. I'm on a quest, I said proudly. A quest? Huh? The police Selkie sounded surprised. A kid like you? What are you after? I didn't think it would be a good idea to say anything about the mirror, so I settled for, I can't tell you. Which was exact truth. The Selkie lifted its upper lip, displaying his long, white, sharp dog teeth. I would if I could. Believe me, I said hastily. The thing is, I can only tell the Mermaid Queen. You're after the mirror, huh? The Selkie said wisely. You won't get it, of course, but I understand that you have tried. I have to try. I'll see if I can get set up for an audience for you. The fairy changeling is the fairy changeling is your official magic companion. I nodded. I've heard that fairy changelings aren't really up to much in the way of magic. You sure you don't want me to let her drown? Maybe I pick up a better companion along the way. This time I didn't even think about it. I'm sure, I said. Thanks anyways. Your call. Ooh. The Selkie pulled a wand with a circle on the top of its belt. Now, if you'll just swim a little closer to her, we'll be on our way. I finned myself up on a changeling. The Selkie held the wand to his muzzle and blew a huge bubble around us. Changeling immediately curled up on the bottom of the bubble with her sea-soaked jacket pulled up around her ears. I plastered myself against the transparent side and watched the New York harbor drift slowly by us. I knew a lot about freshwater folk, but all I've learned about the sea folk were their names and descriptions, and a couple of stories, the moral of which was, don't go near the water. The heroes on quests never get drowned. At first, mostly, what I saw was the brownish yellow murk dotted with a lot of outside garbage. I recognized from the park banana peels and paper coffee cups, distinguishing newspaper in plastic bags. Then something large and yellow flashed by the bubble. Oh, I said. Wow. As a school of mermaids in shiny yellow vets swooped and circled around us, scooping up the garbage in their nets. I noticed that their hair was cut short, and none of them were wearing pearls or singing. So much for changelings, mermaids' lore. When the mermaids had swirled away from us in a net, in a neat yellow wave, I looked eagerly around for something else. A whale, maybe, or a sea monster. A large, misty shadow below us seemed promising until we got closer and I saw it was a wooden ship, half buried in mud and covered in rust and barnacles. The police sulky pushed our bubble down inside and wedged us under a piece of deck. This here's a bring, he's bring, brig, he said. It's really a brigantine, but the queen likes her little jokes. Don't bounce around too much. These bubbles aren't entirely splinter-proof. And then he swam away.